Have you ever broken with tradition? You know, I can remember one time I was in the kitchen in my dad's house, and I was crying and I was praying, and I was like, as I was looking back at generations and just saying, God, I don't want to repeat some of the mistakes that previous generations in my family had made. Hey, I'm Mark, and this is your Cornerstone Daily Connection. Well, in that moment, as I was looking back at different generations, I saw things like loving Jesus on Sundays and being a churchgoer, but not carrying that into the home. And I said, I don't want to be that person. And I can also remember, in the history, different children being born out of wedlock or different things. And I'm like, I don't want that for myself, you know? And I remember thinking, I want this pattern to end with me. And that was a very big deal. Well, here in today's Bible story, boy, I'll tell you what, Elizabeth and Zechariah have had quite the journey, haven't they? Zechariah, after not being able to speak for all this time, right? And they're having this child who would be, the cousin, I think, right? The cousin of Jesus, John the Baptist. And as his birth is coming out, it's so cool. Because in this moment, Zechariah breaks with tradition. You see, after having such a moment like this and such an encounter with an angel, likely the child should have been named Zechariah Jr. That's what you would think he would have named his son, right? Or they would have had some very symbolic family name. And that's what would have been expected. But in this moment, Zechariah breaks with tradition. And he names his son something that nobody expected, to be perfectly honest. We're over here, we're in Luke, we're in chapter 1. In verse 57, it says, when it was time for Elizabeth to have her baby, she gave birth to a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown her great mercy, and they shared her joy. On the 8th day, they came to circumcise a child, and they were going to name him after his father Zechariah. Tradition. But his mother spoke up and said, no, he is to be called John. Okay, well now there's something happening right here, right? They said to her, but there's no one among your relatives who has that last name. Hint, hint, wink, wink, you're about to make a mistake, sweetheart. But then it goes on. They made signs to his father to find out what he would like to name the child. He asked for a writing tablet. And to everyone's astonishment, he wrote, Mark Wigginton. No, he didn't. To everyone's astonishment, he wrote, his name is John. And immediately his mouth was open and his tongue set free, and he began to speak, praising God. And they had this whole thing. You see, Zechariah knew that it was time to break with tradition. Why? Because God gave him a specific purpose that necessitated the breaking with tradition. You know, not all traditions are bad. Some traditions are very good, as a matter of fact. Some traditions are near and dear to our hearts. But sometimes God does call us to part with tradition, to part with the thing that we've been doing for years and years and years and years and years, because God wants us to do something new. And then this new thing that Luke is writing about is that God is going to, use John the Baptist in this case to be instrumental in proclaiming what? There's a great light coming to those living in darkness. You know, as you go through this Bible reading plan and you read the book of Luke, I would like you to pay special attention to every time Luke uses the word light. It's kind of a favorite theme of his, really. And it's a theme we see echoed over here in the book of Acts. And I think it's kind of cool. But if you turn over here to the book of Acts, and I'm in chapter 26, and I'm looking down at verse 17, where it writes, I will rescue you from your own people, from the Gentiles. I am sending you to them to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light, from the power of Satan to God, so they may receive forgiveness of sins and a place among those who are sanctified by faith in me. That's such a cool thing, because that's literally the purpose of John the Baptist. It's calling to proclaim light. And as Zechariah went from darkness to light, and that really echoes in his song, because he has this whole beautiful song in here, right? This is very interesting. Think about Zechariah's identity for a minute. Because of the tender mercy of our God, by which the rising sun will come to us from heaven, to shine on those living in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the path of peace. Did he say to guide their feet to the path of peace? No, our feet. Zechariah fully admits that he is one of those that are living in darkness. And now a way is coming. You see, as the spotlight shifts from John the Baptist to the coming of Jesus, the coming of the Messiah, that the Messiah will bring you from darkness into light, right? From knowing of God, from having your traditions, to actually being able to engage with God personally in relationship. Boom, bright lights. You know, I hope this is kind of an encouragement to you as you're going about your life and as you're thinking about the things that you know, those things that you do, what God's called you to. Realize that the greatest thing we can do is to do what? Is to proclaim the good news of Jesus. And sometimes that might mean breaking with some of our traditions, and that's okay. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.